Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, freaks and geeks of all ages, to UVMTV's Nerds of the Round Table. I am your host, David. I am joined by my friend Luke.
Hey.
By my friend Noah.
How goes it?
And by my friend Gina.
It's good to see you all.
For those of you who are new to the show, each and every episode we talk about one topic and we just share it with the table. We share our thoughts, our ideas, and then we give it out to you to discuss amongst yourselves in the comments. You can share us on Facebook video. This is a bad intro. But yeah, so get involved in the discussion any way you can, and we'd love to hear feedback from you as always. But for now, we're going to get on with the topic. It's my topic this episode, my friends.
Before we get started,
What?
I want to note, for the record, that Noah,
I'm concussed.
he's concussed and I have a migraine.
So
We love you guys so much that we're doing this.
Like
so
with a
just wanna put it
concussion.
out there.
Now, I'm not making any promises to Wit with this, because not exactly.
If
all
Noah
man.
just like faints, now you know why.
I mean,
If he says
it would be
anything
pretty
really
dramatic.
insulting, we obviously can't blame him.
I mean,
Oh wait,
yeah. So
Noah,
I'll just spout out a few. Like,
tell him how you got your concussion.
oh, it was a Quidditch accident, and that's not. The thing is, that's not even a joke. It really was a Quidditch accident.
So what happened? You were... What
I
happened?
was beating, and I was reaching down to grab the bludger. It happened to be in front of the hoops, and some chaser came up and hucked the quaffle at the hoops, and it hit me in the head. So it was like a wrong place, wrong time sort of situation.
He got a concussion in the most nerdy and epic
Oh,
way.
It's the best
For
way.
you. I did this for you.
We take pride in our lifestyle.
Woo.
Yeah. So yeah.
So now back to the official topic.
It's a rough week, but we're gonna keep pushing on. Today is my topic, and my friends, I want to talk about Star Wars Rogue One.
Woo!
Or technically, it's called Rogue One: A Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, so you're all
Get
familiar.
it right,
you're all
David.
All right, I'm sorry, Jesus. You're all familiar with this film that's coming out in December?
Wait, they're stealing the plans for the Death Star?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay. You know that. Okay. So essentially, for those of you who don't know, the plot of the film centers around this band of rebels, this small band of rebels that are spies, going to steal the plans of the Death Star and bring it to the entire Rebel Alliance in order to figure out a way how to destroy it. It takes place before Star Wars Episode 4: New Hope, just about a couple days before, really. So it's kind of like a prequel, but also a sequel to Star Wars Episode 3. So it's a pre-sequel,
Stop it.
kind of.
That's too complicated.
Basically, as the title
too much.
implies, it's a Star Wars story.
Yeah,
It's part of the main canon, but it's not like episode 3.5.
Yeah, it doesn't focus. It doesn't focus around the Skywalker characters. It doesn't focus around Jedi. It doesn't focus around Sith. It focuses around the characters that are not core, but I guess are supposed to be kind of interesting. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I have some issues with this movie, you guys.
In case you couldn't tell.
Oh.
In case, yeah, I mean, look, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I have the schematics of an AT-AT on my shirt. But I don't know. I guess when these new movies were coming out, right? When Disney was saying, "Hey, we're gonna make a whole bunch of Star Wars movies, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna have a fun time. We're gonna make a lot of money." I was like, "All right, cool, that's fine. I can do with it like a core story movie, right? And then I can do like an offshoot or whatever. It'll be fun. Then we go back to a core story movie, then another offshoot, whatever." I was fine with that methodology. But then, by the time Episode 7 came out, like Episode 7 was really good. You know what I mean? Episode 7 was really, really fun. I love Rey. I love Finn. I love Poe. I love the new, like, moving forward in the universe, getting to see new things. Even though Episode 7 was like a retread, there was a lot of new things in it that made it interesting.
Yeah, definitely a strong, like one of the strongest casts.
Yeah, and a strong return to Star Wars form.
Yeah.
So I guess some of my issues from this movie come from the fact that it's like, it's a huge step backwards, like for me, personally. We go back to an era that's already been revisited like so many times, especially if you're like into like more than just the movies, like reading the books or playing the video games or watching the animated series. Like, this is a timeline where like, I feel like there's not too much else that can be said about what happens in this era, right? I mean, in all amounts of history, like even... in human history, for example, you think about World War II, there are numerous stories that you can tell there. But sometimes one can become fatigued from the World War II stories. Sometimes you want to learn about the Civil War. Sometimes you want to learn about the age of exploration. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I could interject, though. What I think this movie, yeah, it retreads a lot of like that history of like that they've covered in other mediums. But I think what's really interesting about this movie myself is for the first time really in Star Wars history, you get to see a war in Star Wars. Like you see the trailer and it looks like a full-out war film
Yeah.
with the Star Wars things, and like before, like Star Wars was just about the journey and everything, obviously.
Now,
But
I'm going to disagree with you right there because we've seen plenty of
Yeah,
war in
there's
Star
been
Wars.
plenty of
There's been
combat
the Battle of
scenes.
Hoth. There was
Yeah.
been the fight to the Death Star. There's
Yeah,
been the
but
battle
it's not-
on Endor.
that was
There's
never
been-
the main
the
point of
first-
the movie.
I'll remind
Yeah,
you of the
like-
first 15 minutes of the second
It's
film.
it's more of like,
Yeah.
but the other movies
The
are more
second
like
film doesn't count.
they're more like a quest versus like a strict tactics combat military thing.
Yeah,
Right, but
this
I
is
mean-
a military film.
It's like the
set
sense
in
of
the
the film
Star Wars
versus-
But that's not
universe.
what the synopsis explains. The synopsis explains like it's a spy mission.
So espionage.
Yeah, like an espionage,
But,
which is fine, but I mean, put it in something else. There is this timeline called the Old Republic, which may or may not be canon. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Old Republic.
Is that those computer games?
Yeah, it basically takes place 1,000 years before like Star Wars Episode 1. So
Oh,
1,000
geez.
years before Darth Vader ever was an idea. Where there's a gigantic army of Jedi and a gigantic army of Sith that are like huge and galaxy spanning. There's a conflict between them, and it's like the first Galactic Civil War, so to speak. That's an era that's been pretty much untouched by anything. You don't read about it in books very often. Well, in books, never mind. Books, there's a lot of it. It can sometimes get a little dry, but you read about it a lot in books. But you don't see it for yourself. You don't see a story being told in animation, in movies, rarely in video games. There is the MMO RPG that is out, but that's also very much like decision based. So you make your own story shaped in that environment.
Yeah.
That's something that personally, it's also visually striking. So that's something that I would love to see.
But I feel
in a
like
movie.
if you had a Jedi Sith like battle type of situation, like all you're gonna really get is the Battle of Geonosis just like blown up into a movie.
Also, if it's like as you said, 1,000 years before the current events, it would be so disjointed from what's actually happening. I feel like that putting that as a major canon film would be sort of not shell shocking, but like confusing because it's just so far away from what's happening in like the main canon. You know what I mean?
I guess so, but I mean, like, these movies are not going to continue on in any way, shape, or form. Like, Rogue One, you're probably never going to see those characters again.
But-
Not only because they probably will die by the
But
end of it,
Rogue
but
One
because,
is-
like, the main story is already continuing forward with Rey and Finn and Poe.
But my point is, Rogue One is a part of the modern continuum. It's not as disjointed in time. Like going back 1,000 years, it just would seem kind of out of place. I can see that being like a direct
It's
to
more
home
accessible
thing.
to
It's
See, but
more
like-
chronologically like connected.
All right, I guess I can understand
That's
that.
my
But see,
point.
as like a Star Wars fan, like that stuff's gotten tired for me. Especially as like I enjoy the prequel movies. I understand that not everybody does, and I understand why they don't. But I enjoy them. I enjoy them a lot. Those are actually like the Star Wars movies that I kind of grew up on
Yeah.
because they were coming
That's
out
fair.
when like we were kids.
Yeah.
When I was like 5 or 6 years old. In fact, like Episode 3 was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters.
Can I
saw
ask
it
you
with my
a
dad.
question, though?
Yeah.
Please, you cannot tell me that you weren't excited though when you just like see that Darth Vader and you hear like
What, the
James
Rogue
Ear-
One trailer?
Yeah,
That was
like you just
lame.
see Darth
That was
Vader.
lame. You saw his helmet. What the hell is that?
But James Earl Jones is gonna reprise his role.
Yeah, okay, but like that does James Earl Jones reprised his role in Star Wars Rebels for an entire season. Seeing his helmet in like 2.5 seconds of a shot does nothing for me. And also to your point of like it's more interconnected.
Yeah.
I go back to my point where it's like don't choke me. I go back to my point where this movie is basically a one and done deal.
Yeah.
And it's totally based around the fact that it's playing it safe. That it's trying to still get like fans of the original
Yeah.
movies back
And
into
I
it.
think-
That's totally lame, in my opinion. That's totally lame. You have this bountiful universe you can explore in, and you go back to the same old well.
I
That's
think
just
it's-
that's.
But I also think it's more accessible to newer fans and people who aren't as into the like Star Wars universe. Like I had no idea what you were talking about when you were talking about that 1,000-year-old Republic. I'm not as into the Star Wars universe, and I think a Rogue One movie would be much more accessible to someone who's not a diehard fan such as myself, because it is something that I'm still aware of because it's takes place as
And
kind of
in
part
the-
of the
yeah.
continuum that I've been familiar with. So it's accessible to a greater demographic. I think for a large blockbuster film, that's very important.
Gina has something to say.
No, you basically, that was my point. That
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I like Star Wars, but I'm not like a diehard fan. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not super into it. So something like that not only would like, people know Darth Vader, Luke, I
Yeah.
am your father.
Yeah.
Spoilers. And
Plot twist.
so going,
The original
the original
plot
plot
twist.
so going, so having a movie set in that time is like for people who watched the most recent movie and were like, this is a great movie, but I've never
Yeah.
seen anything Star Wars prior to that because there was this giant gap in time. It's a time for they can watch that and they have a little bit of background
Mhm.
to set up for the next movie where apparently Luke is going to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's also a way to lead them into watching the movies if they haven't
Yeah.
already.
So if they were going to do
Thank you,
something
Gina.
like that, where it's more about the Star Wars extended canon, it would have to be something not necessarily direct to DVD, but not something that's targeted towards like the whole demographic they're trying to shoot for with this,
Mm.
because it makes more sense from a marketing
Yeah.
standpoint.
See, I totally disagree with you though, because I mean, the argument can be made that Episode 7, lo and behold, was like successful based on the fact that they brought back Han Solo and Chewbacca and the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, you go and watch that movie, they are not the focus.
Sure.
They are featured and and there's a lot of attention put towards them, but they are not the focus. It is Rey that's the focus. It is Finn that's the focus. These new and it's Kylo Ren that's the focus. These new characters that we are probably gonna have around a lot longer than we will Luke or Leia or Han. Spoilers, he dies. Or Chewbacca. Actually, Chewbacca might stick around for a longer time.
But it's
Chewbacca might stick around forever because everybody loves Chewbacca.
But the
Yeah.
plot itself is still connected to the prior movies. So
right,
it
but
makes-
I mean, I would make a strong case that with
I mean, it's new, but it's not.
I would make a strong
totally
case
out
that
of the-
with an old Republic story, you could set up like nuggets and seeds that would end up leading to explaining where the galaxy was 1,000 years later. You could
Yeah. Yes.
theoretically do something that says, all right, so say it was an empire at the very beginning, and everyone's like, no, empire system does not work. We need to set up a galactic senate to be able to give systems their equal rights and opportunities to be able to represent themselves.
But at the same
And
time-
then you get into the prequels.
I think if they're trying to, it's almost shoehorning, not shoehorning, but like it would feel forced that they're putting all these Easter eggs into it. I don't know. I just don't think that it could be the same. They could, from a marketing standpoint, they could make a blockbuster film. I'm sure it would be successful, but I think that the way, if they were going to do that, it would have to be like a direct-to-DVD sort of thing, where it's for fans who are much more acquainted with the series who can go out and watch it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea for a film. It would certainly be an excellent film, but from a marketing standpoint, as with regards to,
Yeah.
less
Bringing it back to
interested
Rogue
people.
One.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
get off on a tangent there.
While I do agree with you, David, that I think like that type of movie you're describing would be super cool, and I'd be down to see it. It'd probably be like a more core audience, but I'd still be super down to see it. I'm not mad for that reason that Rogue One is existing. Like, I think it will be a good story. I like the angle they're doing. Like, yeah, it's an espionage spy mission, but like, it's a new route that Star Wars can take, and it's like exploring the universe in a different way.
Right.
So I think it'll be cool. And I just want to see like that whole battle where the guy like just shoots a rocket launcher at an AT-AT.
Yeah.
It's like boom. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with you on this. And I don't think it's going to be bad by any means. Like, I think it's going to be quality. They wouldn't be putting it out if it wasn't.
No.
But
It's just not what you want at this time.
it's not what I want at this time. And I think one more thing that kind of grinds my gears about it
My gears.
is to me at this point in time, after being alive 18 years, I think Star Wars bread and butter is the Jedi and the Sith. The lightsaber wielders. That's why I go to Star
Yeah.
Wars for a lot of the time.
That's
I
fair.
love to hear that mythology. And if you go and watch like some deeper lore stuff about the Jedi and the Sith, if you go watch the Clone Wars episodes where they deal with the mystical side of it, or if you read the novels that explains how the Sith formed in the first place, like that stuff is always like really, really interesting. It's really compelling and it's really fascinating to read. And the fact that movies like Rogue One and then the Han Solo movie and then the rumored Boba Fett movie are like the next three.
They're not making a spin-off Boba Fett.
They probably would. I mean, I don't hate it as much as everybody else does because Boba Fett's a lame character anyway. Give him a movie, we give him more to do.
Yeah,
but
what are they
that's
gonna
I
do?
don't want to get off on that tangent right now. That's for
Boba Fett
another
literally
episode.
had like
He
4
yeah.
lines in the
Like,
entire series.
And
Yes.
he's hailed as one of the best characters ever, but
It just-
that's another topic altogether. They keep going back to this very familiar well, and the only things that they're doing new at this point is the episodes. To me, as a Star Wars fan, that's kind of unrewarding. At this point, I go to Star Wars for new things. I go for new ideas. I don't like the creators just playing in the playgrounds that already
doing
existed.
a new espionage. That is new territory. That's
But we know what happens at the end. It's not.
yeah, but we don't know how it happens. I don't think just because I don't think any story is necessarily bad because you know how it's gonna end. I mean, then any book or movie would have no rewatch value.
Right.
I mean, it's all about the journey and how you get there.
I guess
which is
so,
sort of
but I mean,
philosophical,
and
but-
I agree with you on that
Point
point.
of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that point because that's exactly what the prequels did. But what the
Yeah.
prequels did is also introduce us to an entirely new dynamic of world. We got to see a galactic setting. We got to see a Jedi Order. We got to see a confederacy of independent systems. We got to see this whole different conflicts happening, really. Similar to what was happening in the original trilogy, but also completely
Yeah.
different, shouted in totally
Okay.
different things. We're not seeing that. We're going to see the stealing of the Death Star plans like 5 days before Darth Vader storms Princess Leia's ship. And that's... I don't know. I'm just kind of disappointed.
I
about
think the
that.
reason though they're afraid to like do such a different story, like true Star Wars fans, well, every Star Wars fan, I think it's a true Star Wars fan. So much love.
We
But
love
like,
Star Wars fans.
like the ones who like delve into this huge universe, I think the reason they're afraid to do that is just because of such the poor critical reception that the prequel trilogy did.
Yeah.
They're just like, let's stick to our roots that everyone loves, and they're very afraid.
I know that's exactly what
Yeah.
you're doing. And it's garbage because Disney tries... Disney doesn't try new things all the time, but when they try new things, it more often than not works out for them.
But that was
Look at-
pre the Disney affiliation
Yeah.
too, though.
I guess so. But I mean, you look at what Disney does with Zootopia, which is a fantastic
Yeah.
movie. You look at what they do with Frozen, which is fantastic. Big Hero 6.
Have you seen the recent Marvel cartoons on Disney, like the Spider-Man?
I like the Ultimate
things?
Spider-Man cartoon. We won't get into that. Though.
Yeah,
But
that's
like they can do good work.
Yeah, they
with,
can.
like,
They can
these-
do good work with pre-existing material and make it
Yeah.
fresh and kind of new, which
I think they could do that. I think they potentially will do that after they get a few more movies under their belt, because Star Wars is such a huge thing and it's so important to so many people that I think taking risks so early on taking the chance to screw it up would be bad, because you don't want
probably
to
gonna
screw
be
it
some
up
time
right off the
before-
bat. Yeah, they want to get some more experience, more.
I think it's
I
possible.
I
don't
suppose
know.
so.
Especially since the core Star Wars movies right now are completely new and different.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's an interlude, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would also, I think if it's an espionage film, it gives them, one of the things that I like most about Star Wars is that it's a really interesting world to me that they've created around themselves but have never really explored because it's always been about the war.
Right.
Yeah.
So my hope is that with an espionage film, if it's
Some
just
more
about
of the-
a couple characters doing like secrets, it'll be less
Spy
like
stuff.
on enemy ships and more like in the world.
Yeah.
So
And-
more global politics, that sort of thing, like the daily lives of people in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for too. I guess, and to kind of wrap it up, unless anybody else has any final thoughts, I guess I just kind of hope that they did that outside of this time period,
Mm.
because coming from someone who actually likes the prequels, I'm getting tired of hearing all the original fans from like the 80s saying, "Oh, the prequels suck. Oh, they're just terrible. Oh, nothing cool about them." Oh, I'm like, and I kind of think to myself,
It's kind
this
of unfair.
this time period is becoming monotonous for me, I guess is all I'm saying. And I guess they just dug. I wish they dug from another well.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean the prequels are good. It's just they weren't as good as the original, and nostalgia definitely
right.
puts
Yeah.
like your nostalgia shades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to have our
Yeah.
stormtroopers and our AT-ATs and
Yeah.
our Death Stars.
Yeah.
Which we have like 3 of those now.
Yeah.
The last one was like
Yeah.
unofficially a Death Star, but
It was a Death
It was
Star.
it was
Death
a
Star.
it was a mega it was a death planet.
Yeah.
That.
That sucked up
Yeah, I mean, it was a
sun, which is
literal
a
Death
star,
Star, yeah.
for
Like-
its power.
Yeah.
Like literally killed a star.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless
It was
anybody,
more of a Death Star than any of them.
all right. Well, unless anybody has any final thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, freaks and geeks of all ages, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of UVMTV's Nerds of the Round Table, where we talked about Star Wars Rogue One. If you have any thoughts on the film that's coming out, why don't you feel free to leave your comments down below. Why don't you like the video, consider subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date when UVMTV's Nerds of the Round Table updates, as well as all the other excellent UVMTV shows. Consider sharing this with your friends, tweet about it, Facebook it, do whatever you need to do, just get the word out there. We'd love to be able to include more people into this community that we're starting to build around all things nerd.
We still want someone from Kansas.
We still want a Kansas fan. We still want a Kansas
To be
fan.
all in all.
Yeah. And unless there are any final...
Just any suggestions for future episodes, always feel free to shoot us a comment, tweet,
Yeah.
Facebook, whatever.
We're already
all-
running out of
yeah.
ideas.
I mean, we're open to new suggestions.
Yeah.
Always.
JK, but kind of.
Anything you
yeah.
want us to hash out.
So, with all that being said, I've been David,
I've been Luke.
I have been Noah.
And I've been Gina.
and this has been UVMTV's Nerds of the Round Table. Thanks for joining us, and as always, live long and prosper.
Adios.
And cut!